Here is my attempt to capture the requirement in a programmer-friendly format. The coin tender machine can dispense coins in certain predefined denominations. P, the smallest subdivision of a dollar, and it stands for penny. 100 P's are $1. And the denominations are listed here in a relative scale. For example, N stands for nickel, that is 5 times that of penny, and the dime is 10 times that of a penny. So the list goes like this. On the right hand side, you are seeing a rudimentary decision table. So what is that? It is a way to express a relationship between our input and expectation. So if you think the next logical step is directly diving into the business of translating this requirement into a program, my humble advice is to please wait. It is one of the common mistakes even an experienced programmer does. I promise you that the next 10 minutes is going to be a super boring moment in your life. Even you may tend to stop seeing this video further. I request you to be there. Please. I am seeing a lot of authors writing books and teaching computer programming tend to conveniently skip this most important section that talks about the disciplined hygiene a professional programmer should have. I guess the authors are discouraged by the readability index of such sections, I believe. Did you observe that every excellent professional performs a certain sequence of ceremonies before rendering their actual performance? Do you remember the cheerful poetry, a piper? A piper in the streets today. I still remember this poetry even after 3 decades. It goes as a piper in the streets today, set up and tuned and started to play. So the stress is on the setup and tuned. Those are the essential ceremonies before we even play. You may know that doctors wash their hands sincerely several minutes and take as many precautionary measures before entering the operation theatre. So the first step towards professional programming is learning how to set up an adequate environment and to practice this great art. So we start by creating a project. Followed by performing a sanity check to see if we are working on the right project. Then we should honor our judges and juries, our test. They are the VIPs. We need to allocate a need space for them to live. We call this as we have where we are going to house the tests. That matters. In projects built with Java, we use Maven to silently facilitate these required activities. As it does a lot of things silently, we often ignore their significance. We can set up the environment, of course, for this kata in a matter of 60 seconds, once if you understand the concept. But I don't want to do that in a hurry because it is analogous to drive a luxury car at high speed along our scenic ECR of Chennai without enjoying the beauty of the beaches, the activities, and the comforts of the car. Before I even create a project, I request you to have a mindset that may be different from your conventional wisdom. What is it? The team of Rust in particular, and any team that creates a programming language in general, are expending a lot of energy to offer you advice, and they are in the form of compile time errors. We need a mindset. We need a mindset to relish the compile time errors. I even request you to take a moment to appreciate and respect the intelligence of these language creators. The best way, in fact, to master a language is to encounter and relish as many errors as possible. Hence, the first element in the mindset is compile time errors are not your enemies, but they are your true friends. The second element of the mindset, the tests are your partner, your guide, and in fact your coach. They should be treated well. In my world, the word code is a cohesive unit that includes both the test and the programs that are written for the test. So the objective of this session is to show you my strategy. Your strategy may be different. It is my strategy on how I prefer to organize the tests and the working code. Please note that when I mean I decouple the tests, in fact, I have not completely eliminated them from the working code. I mean to house them separately. So join me in creating this project. So Cargo is a Rust ecosystem that helps you to create a project quickly. So we issue a command cargo new coin tender. See the magic. So it creates main with a .rs file, main.rs, and where are we? Keras code, and let us get into the project we just created. It silently created a lot of stuff. For the time being, let us ignore this cargo.2ml. That's a great way to express the dependencies of our program. Of course, we do not have any dependencies for this contender kata at this moment except for the rest. So how to run this? Like every language, there is going to be an entry point. We run this using the same cargo command that we have used to create a project, cargo run. So it will discover where the main and print this hello world to your screen. Let us check if you are pointing to the real program. We may have a lot of projects. It's one of my habit to working on a different project instead of the right project. So let me do a simple sanity check whether I am working on the right project. Kind excuse me. Hello coin tender. So I am working on the right project. It is responding to what I am typing here. Cool. Now the next step, as I told already, we have to give a proper working space for our tests and the working code. Before we get into that, just look into some of the machineries Rust offers us. Similar to a gist of JavaScript or asset that of JUnit or whatever it is, there is a macro called as an asset EQ. Anything that has the exclamatory mark does not mean that it is not symbol, it is a macro. And I have to give something here. Let us check how it behaves. 2 plus 3, we know that it is 5. Let me use some 10 to check what it does. Cargo run. Right? It's informing you the left hand side is 5, but the right hand side is 10. So the expectation mismatch, it's panicking. What will happen if it's silent? Many people are writing their assertions as part of their function itself, that is their habit. I have a different idea or I have a different preference. So let me first put how I want. Let us put a mental model of how I want to keep or preserve my test and the working code. Let me create a directory within this src. So now the src directory has main.rs. I'm trying to create 2 directories. So I have one directory first to start with mkdir. Let's give some famous name called as mkdir lib, stands for library. So within this lib, I am going to house my tests and my working code. So what's the name of my test? So as I came from Java and worked extensively on several Java and Ruby on Rails project, I like to use a word called as a feature or a specification rather than just calling them as tests, because they are specification for our kata. A test is something that gives a meaning that you are doing something as a post-mortem. Specification is something you are giving in advance to express the intended behavior. There is a subtle difference between a test and a specification, but both of them will have the same philosophy. A specification is also a test. It will tell you what the need, and then you will do a coding, and then again you will use the same specification to validate if the code is meeting the purpose. So what is a word? We can use a word called as a spec. That's a great thing from Ruby on Rails, that R spec. So another word is features, because the machine is going to have a lot of features in the long run. So we will create 2 files now. One is features, that is going to have all the specifications of the machine. And the next is our working code, that is a machine, the coin tender machine. My God, the features should be a .rs file. So let me this is a coin tender machine. So we created 2 files, features and a machine. And we have to inform them, the main or anyone, that Or for example, in the features we are going to house our tests. How a test will be? Fn should dispense kinds. It should use the capability of a machine to test whether the dispensing or the coin it dispensed is meeting our expectation. So asset EQ, we are having the machine that is going to have a method exchange for if my input is 1, it should return P. That is the most primordial test we are going to write, and we are going to make this test to pass. That is the objective. Exchange for 1. If I pass 1, I am expecting, right? So this is my first test. Now from main, I cannot invoke this should dispense coins because main does not know where this should dispense coin lives. Natural. So the way to make, normally we are not going to invoke this test method from the main, but the sake of brevity and for you to understand how the packages are modularized, I am going to pretend as if I were not in the knowing of Rust for the time being. This technique is called as learning from the computer, or lean on the computer, or lean on the compiler, sorry. Machine should dispense coins, and this should dispense coins in turn is invoking another method that is supposed to live in machine exchange for. If I pass 1, P is the expectation. So let us boldly go to the machine first and write this method exchange for there. If you are a Eclipse guy in Java, you can just click on some suggestions, and that will automatically create you all the functions, the classes and the methods there. Now we have to do that manually to enjoy what the whole fun is. Exchange for 1, that is the input. It's of some type because Rust is a type safe language, and providing an i32, so it can hold that much big number, but I am not expecting this need to be an i32. We don't want to lose our focus here, so allow me to just put i32 here. This is going to return you your famous string, and return, if I pass any number, to make this to run, let us make this to return. There is no Rust parlance anywhere here. These are all what you know from another language, or any language for that matter, except for function exchange for. It accepts an input, it has to emit a string and a return P. Of course, this is not a Rust way of doing things. We don't want a return, we don't want a semicolon. Please wait. And we have to make this available for outside world, so we have made this as a public. How to first of all invoke this machines exchange for from main, because we have decided not to invoke this should dispense coins from main, because it is a test method. We need not invoke this from main. Agree. So machine, let us put this machine exchange for here. Now it started complaining that I do not know where the machine is, and this is going to return a string. Let us have this as result. Let us pick the result, the very limited knowledge we have at this moment. Put a curly brace, so similar to Python, and result. Now we are having our first error. As I told already, errors are our friends, they are not enemies. They are giving you suggestion. Use of undeclared crate or module machine. So there are two words, crate and the module. So there is a suggestion that there is a concept called as a crate and there is a concept called as a module. What is it? So the quick way, I don't want to bore you a lot. In the lib, we are going to create one more file called as. So when you create a mod.rs, that's an indication that it is a model file. In the mod.rs, we are going to declare our members of this model. So what are the two members we have? That is the features and the machine. Features, the plural verb is our specification. Now let's see what it says. Nothing happened because we have to include that or import that, or we have to use that here. Use lib, because it is inside the lib, the machine is. Now it's asking where the lib. Now we will provide this pub mod lib. Now it is fine with our lib, but it is complaining that model machine is private. So our first test is almost it is passed. It is giving us the required hints. What is our next steps? Machine is private. Where? Private module. Let us go to the mod.rs and put a pub in front of it. Pass. So this is the strategy that you can use to create a lib directory, express the specifications, that is the features, and your machine, and type both of them in the mod.rs, and you can invoke that from here. Now let us go and attend the other errors. Now we are seeing two errors here. Return P. Wait a minute. Now it started giving you all the errors because from the main, now it find a link to the machine that is living in the lib. Now the compiler has started giving you all the required errors. And in the features we have few errors. Use of undeclared crate or model machine. Let us follow the same trick that what we did in the machine. Use lib machine. Now, where the lib is, a help is available to you. A similar path exists, create lib. Let us give that, create lib. It accepts our mischievous activities. Now it goes to this asset EQ that requires an exclamation mark because it is a macro, and our test is almost fine, and our machine is not working fine. That is, this is a string, and you know that this is not a string, this is a character. If you are familiar with any other language, then I'll attempt to provide a P within double quotes. Still it is saying that this is not a string, but it is something different. We'll come to that later. It's try using a conversion method, P dot to string. So it's a clear indication that what is provided within a double quotes is not a string, but it is something different, called as ampersand str. Well, let us just do what is required minimum. Let us discuss about the ampersand str on another occasion. In Rust, we don't want the return statement if it is the last line, and even we don't want the semicolon. It will be considered as a return statement. It will be it's a kind of a sugar coated one. It is equivalent of giving a return and a semicolon if it is your last statement. So from main, now I can invoke this exchange for the println the result. Let's check. We have to issue the cargo run from the place where the cargo.2ml lives. Cargo run. Cannot compare string with char. Asset EQ. There is a problem in the features.rs. This is not, what we are returning is not a character. So the quick fix for that. Let me clear this so that you can see the result. Hello coin tender. The result is P. So that is what this machine exchange for 1. And if I go to the machine, we know that we cannot use this input. Let us ignore this for the time being. We will cover this in the next episode. In the features, where are we using this should dispense coin? In fact, from the main, we are not going to invoke this test method at all, because we now to run this test, normally we will issue the command cargo run, cargo test. So it will tell that 0 passed, 0 failed, 0 ignored, meaning our tests were not considered when we are running the command cargo test. How to make that to go through the test? Meaning I want, okay, 1 passed, 0 failed, 0 ignored, etc. Probably would have guessed that already. The features we have to give hash test. One passed, 0 failed. Now we are getting one more warning. Let us ignore this warning about input. There is one more warning here, that unused import create lib machine. But we are using that here. Then why it is complaining? Because this machine, though it is being used in the test is not part of your published API, or it is not going to be a working code. It is a specification for you. So you need to differentiate this from that of your working code. And where you can do that is, you can come to this mod features, and we can provide something called as CFG test. So you are giving indication to the features.rs. In the mod.rs, you are giving indication that this is a test. And you please don't apply the same rules of whether you have used that or not for me. So this is one of the reasons why I want to have the test to live in a separate place. And the machine is the one that will be built using the specification declared here. And the mod is a place where we expose the machine to the outside world. And in the main, we will use the mod lib, and we are not going to use any of our features. The features will be get invoked automatically when you are issuing the cargo test. Now you are saying one passed, that is an indication. If you are not still believing this, let us give something different. If asset exchange for 1, I am expecting n for this. Let us see a failing test. See, 1 failed because the left is P. The machine exchange for is returning you a P, but we are expecting a nickel n on the right hand side. So the test fails. So make this P, will make the difference. And in the machine.rs, we are having this input unused. And that is the end of this quick session about how to organize your tests and where to keep your specifications, and how to invoke the specification, and how to invoke the working code from the specification. Thank you very much.